Hi everybody, welcome to the Sky Diary for August 2021. The night sky is again darker. We don't have to stay up quite so late. Planets are still a bit of a challenge, but there's plenty to see during this month. So let me take you through those. Don't forget the Sky Diary is available on a calendar that you can take around with you. Go to star-gazing.co.uk/diary, and the calendar looks something like this. You've got 3 calendars. You've got the Sky Diary, which is all the graphics and things from this diary you're seeing now, what to see in the sky. You've got activities and events that I'll learn about there as well, and space dates, which are anniversaries of things that have happened in space and spaceflight, and I'm continually adding details to those as well. So all the graphics you see on this presentation are in the Sky Diary electronically, so download the app and install it at star-gazing.co.uk/diary. Don't forget, if you find the Sky Diary useful, don't forget, like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you in a bit. So, what have we got to look forward to during August 2021? So, 15th of the month, about 10 o'clock at night, looking north, these are the circumpolar constellations, the ones that never set from the UK. Because we're so far north, you've got certain constellations that as they rotate around the sky, they never set. And of course, we start with Ursa Major here, with the 7 stars of the Plough, or as our American friends call it, the Big Dipper here, the Great Bear. Ursa Major, the Great Bear. You've got Ursa Minor, the Little Bear here, and meandering between them, you've got Draco, the Dragon. Over this side, you've got the W or M-shaped Queen, Cassiopeia, over here, and then King Cepheus next door to her as well. And they lie along the Milky Way, so there's lots and lots to see along there. And then the very indistinct constellation of Camelopardalis, the Giraffe. And then Lynx, very, very indistinct here at the front of the Great Bear. And then Perseus just starting to rise. Of course, we've got the Perseid meteor showers this month, so I'll tell you all about that in a little while. And then if you look towards the north, you might be able to see the bright star Capella in the constellation of Auriga Charioteer, very low to the northern horizon, and of course that's almost overhead during the winter. And then over here in the west, just rising, you've got the herdsman Bootes just coming up with a very bright yellowy star Arcturus there as well. Should we look south in the middle of the month, about 10 o'clock in the evening, you see the stars that are at their highest. So this is looking south, and we can see a number of constellations here. The Milky Way looking absolutely beautiful across there, where you've got a really dark sky. And of course there's 2 bright objects down fairly low towards the south or the southeast. It's Jupiter, which is in the constellation of Aquarius, and then there's Saturn, which is in the constellation of Capricornus. So you can't miss those late evening, and are visible all night, and I'll tell you why in a little while. You've got Sagittarius, the teapot, right down here. Scorpius is almost setting at this time of the night. Then a little bit higher in the southwest, you've got Ophiuchus and the Serpent Bearer, and then you've got Lyra a bit higher up with the bright star Vega, Cygnus with the bright first magnitude star Deneb, and Aquila with the first magnitude star Altair. And of course these 3 stars make up what we call the summer triangle. And then over in the east you've got Pegasus rising really nicely as well. If we look towards the west, these are the constellations that are setting. Of course Ursa Major is nearly at its lowest, but of course it's never going to set, being circumpolar. Coma Berenices here is getting very low, so the domain of the galaxy is almost gone. Bootes, the herdsman, bright star Arcturus, as I said, is starting to set down there. And Hercules getting a bit lower, but still fairly high to be able to observe. And Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, is there as well. And then Corona Borealis, the northern crown, is nestled in between Bootes and Hercules. And if we look towards the east, these are the constellations that are starting to rise. So really we're starting to see the autumn constellations starting to appear. Got Cygnus, which is almost overhead at this time of night. Perseus coming up, which of course has the Perseid meteor shower. Pegasus here, there's the head of the horse, the front legs, and of course the square of Pegasus here. And you've got Andromeda with the Andromeda galaxy showing just here as well. And Aquarius, which of course has got Jupiter within it too, and Saturn just over here as well in Capricornus. And then Pisces is just starting to come up too over here. So what planets have we got this month? Well, Mercury reaches superior conjunction on the 1st of August, so that's going to stay really close to the Sun throughout the time. And when it does move out from behind the Sun, it's going to stay very low to the western horizon after sunset throughout the month. Venus is visible in the western evening sky after sunset, but it does stay very low to the horizon, so it's going to be quite difficult to observe really low down just after sunset before it disappears itself. And it reaches easterly elongation furthest from the Sun towards the end of October, but it's never ever going to be very high above the horizon because of the angle of the ecliptic at that time of the year. Mars is getting closer to the Sun. We may just about be able to spot it this month, but you have to be really on the ball to be able to get it and have a really low horizon. And the next opposition, when it's going to be at its best, isn't going to be until the 8th of December next year, 2022. Jupiter and Saturn, both planets reach opposition this month, so they're at their best for observing. Uranus is visible low in the eastern morning sky, and Neptune is visible from late evening. Okay, so 1st of August, Mercury reaches superior conjunction, so here's the view in the midday sky. There's Mercury just here. This is the Sun. This is Cancer, because the Sun's in the constellation of Cancer, but of course you're not going to see the stars that make up the constellation in the midday sky. But because Mercury is so close to the Sun, it's on the far side of the Sun, so it's as far from the Earth as it can get. But please don't try and observe it, because it's very close to the Sun. It's very dangerous, and you could ruin your instrument, you could ruin the camera, or even worse, ruin your eyesight. So do not try to observe Mercury when it's so close to the Sun. 2nd of August, Saturn reaches opposition. So it's Jupiter to the left of it, and of course it's visible all night being at opposition, so it'll rise as the Sun sets and set as the Sun rises. And it's at its highest and around midnight, so it's visible all night. So there's Saturn in the constellation of Capricornus there. Sagittarius is just down here, and Aquarius is where Jupiter is. So Jupiter, if you remember, Jupiter and Saturn were very close together last December, but Jupiter is gradually moving away. It's moving further north, so it's going to be a lot easier to see Jupiter over the next few years as it gets a bit higher up from the UK. Saturn, being a lot further out from the Sun, does orbit a lot slower, so it's going to take a longer while to head northwards. So it's going to stay fairly low for a good number of years yet. But don't forget, look out for the rings. They are gradually closing. This is it on the 29th of June 2018. This was it last year on the 7th of April. But they're starting to close. You can see how much the rings have closed between those two dates there. And this is the 7th of August last year. And this is the 20th of September last year. So you can see between here and here, the rings are starting to close up. And they will become edge-on in a number of years' time. But look out, because Saturn's at opposition, look out for the brightening of the rings, this so-called Sea-Liger effect, because they are much, much brighter around opposition for a week or so either side of opposition. So have a look out for that and see just how bright those rings appear. And then, of course, if you look carefully, you may be able to see some of the moons around the planet as well. This is a background star, but this is an image that I took on the 20th of July 2017. You can see Saturn quite nicely, and you can see these faint rings and another background star up there. And of course, Titan you can see with a pair of binoculars or a small telescope, so have a look and see if you can see Titan. If you've got a bigger telescope, you may be able to see some of the smaller satellites as well. Okay, 2nd and 3rd of August, the moon passes between the Hyades and the Pleiades star cluster in the constellation of Taurus. So you need to look out towards the east in the morning, a little while before sunrise. You can see the sunlight starting to appear down here as morning approaches. This is the view about 3:15 in the morning. You can see a lovely thick crescent moon here. You may be able to see a little bit of earth shine on there. And here's Aldebaran, the red eye of the bull, and of course the Hyades, the V-shaped cluster leading away from Aldebaran in the head of Taurus, and the Pleiades up here as well. And of course we've got Orion starting to rise, so we know that the winter stars are starting to rise just before dawn. So autumn is definitely approaching us. And if you look out the next night on the 3rd, again about the same time, 3:15 in the morning, universal time, so don't forget we need to add an hour for British summertime. The moon's moved a little bit further over, yeah, so that should be a nice view in the morning sky. So on the 6th of August, we got an extremely thin crescent moon in the eastern morning sky. This is the view about 3:30 in the morning. Don't forget that's universal time, so add an hour for British summertime, and you see a very thin crescent moon, which should show some absolutely wonderful earth shine. The dark or night side of the moon showing up really nicely with light reflected from the earth. And it's nestled between the two twins, Gemini, Castor and Pollux here, holding hands quite nicely down in the twilight, so it's a little while before dawn breaks, so about 3:30 in the morning. So there's Gemini, Orion, Taurus up here, and Auriga with the bright star Capella showing here. And then the next night on the 7th of August, again this is a little bit later, this is about 3:52 in the morning. You see a much thinner moon, a bit lower down, so we have to wait a little bit later to see it. And yeah, that should be a very nice view down there as well. Gemini there. New moon is going to be on the 8th of August. Oh, let me move myself out of the way. So that's when new moon is going to be. So that's when all the deep sky enthusiasts will be out imaging and observing the really faint stuff. So that's the time of the month to get the best images. 9th and 10th of August, the moon appears in the evening sky. As you can see, I've had to use the sea horizon here because this is a very low event. You need a really good horizon to be able to see this. So there's going to be an extremely thin crescent moon close to Mars and Venus. Look towards the west in the evening sky. You do need a really low horizon, and about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock British summertime, the first thing you're probably going to see is Venus over here. The moon is in the constellation of Leo, and Mars is not that far away, just down here. So that's where Mars is, but it's going to be a real struggle to see. It's really low in the sky, and it's going to be lost in the twilight. But if you've got a good pair of binoculars or a telescope, you might just be able to pick out this pin star-like point in the twilight, but you do need a very low horizon. That's about 8 o'clock at night. And the bright star Regulus is just here, but of course you're not going to see that because it's going to be way too faint. So go out the next night on the 10th. We've left this one a little bit later. This is 8:15 in the evening. Regulus and Mars have already set. You can see just how low the moon is just as it's getting dark, but it's a little bit thicker, but it's still an extremely thin crescent moon, showing up some really nice earth shine in the twilight there. And of course it's just to the right of Venus, so you should be able to see that quite nicely, but you do need a very low horizon to be able to see it. On the 12th of August is the maximum of the Perseid meteor shower, and meteors are going to be visible all night because the radiant, or the point at which all the meteors appear in the northern part of Perseus, is just here, and so you'll be able to see meteors all night. So this is the constellation of Perseus here. It's actually active from mid-June until the 24th of August. There's a long period, but we do get this maximum of meteors on the 12th. Now they list a maximum of 80 plus meteors per hour, but this is what they call the zenithal hourly rate. This is if you had a completely clear sky with the radiant overhead and you could see the whole sky. So we're not going to see the whole sky. The radiant certainly isn't going to be overhead, and so you might get 15 or 20 per hour. So don't raise your expectations looking at 80 plus, but they should still be a very, very nice sight. So get out there, have a look, and see if you can capture them on film. Well, I say film, but digital cameras these days. And the best place to look or point your camera is about 45 degrees from the radiant. So just lay down, use your naked eye, and just take in the view and enjoy these spectacular meteors as these tiny particles of dust come in and produce these light show for you. 15th of August is when the first quarter moon is, so moon's going to start causing problems for the deep sky enthusiasts and comet hunters. 16th of August, the moon, now gibbous, passes north of Antares in Scorpius. So that's the red star Antares there, the red giant star in the constellation of Scorpius. We've got Libra over here. Sagittarius, you can see the teapot quite nicely. Here's the handle, the spout, and the Milky Way looking like steam coming out of the spout if you've got a really dark sky. And the serpent bearer Fucus just up here as well. And this is the view at about 9:15 Universal Time on the 16th. On the 20th of August, Jupiter comes to opposition. Here's Jupiter in the constellation of Aquarius, so a little bit higher than Saturn, which is down here in Capricornus. And get out there, have a look at the cloud belts, have a look for the great red spot, and have a look at some of the moons as well. So it should be a great sight, and I shall certainly be out there very soon trying to capture pictures of both of these planets because they're absolutely fantastic. And the moon passes south of Saturn on the 20th of August. So here it is. This is the view at about 2300 Universal Time. And of course, Saturn and Jupiter being at opposition this month, it's going to be visible all night, rising as the sun sets and setting as the sun rises. So yeah, it's visible all night, and it's reaching its highest around about midnight. So get out there and have a look. 21st to the 22nd of August, the moon's moved on a little bit, so it's approaching Jupiter. It passes south of Jupiter, and this is again is the view at about 11 o'clock on the 21st of the month. And then the next night, the moon's moved across a little bit, so this shows the view on the 22nd. 22nd, of course, is also when we get full moon, so that's going to be the worst time for observing, when the moon's going to wash out all those deep sky stuff and all those fake comets. So if you haven't made the most of it by then, you're going to have to wait a week or so before the moon starts to disappear again. On the 28th of August, the moon passes south of Uranus, visible late evening and into the early hours, and this is the view about 1 o'clock in the morning, looking towards the eastern part of the sky. Here's the moon, and just to give you some constellations around there, there's Taurus over here with the Hyades and the Pleiades star cluster, which we mentioned earlier. Here's Aries the Ram, this is Pisces, and the head of Cetus here. And the moon's just above the head of Cetus. Uranus is here, so it's not too far away. So you can see just where it is in relation to where the moon is. Of course, Uranus is almost but not quite naked eye, but you should be able to pick it up in binoculars or a small telescope. So have a look and see if you can find it. And then the next night, the moon's moved a little bit further away, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to identify. But here it is, and it's in a little line of 3 stars here. So that should make it a little bit easier for you to make out. Okay, last quarter moon occurs on the 30th of August, so right near the very end of the month. So the moon's starting to disappear, we're getting darker skies, especially in the evening. So, yeah. So, the moon passes between the Hyades and the Pleiades star cluster in Taurus on the 29th and the 30th of the month. And this is the view about 3 o'clock in the morning, because remember it passed between those right at the very beginning of the month. And there's Auriga, and then Cetus, the head of Cetus, just over here. And then a couple of comets to mention. 25th to the 30th of August, my favourite comet, Comet 67P, which is the comet that the Rosetta probe and Philae probe landed on 6 years ago now. Visible in the eastern morning sky. The comet's magnitude 14, so it is quite faint, but it does pass south of Uranus between the 25th and the 30th of August. So here's constellations. Here's Pisces, head of Cetus again, Aries, and here's Uranus here. And here's where the comet is on the 1st of August. Here's where it is on the 15th of August. And here's where the comet is on the 31st of August. And the more observant of you may have noticed that the distance between these two is shorter than the distance between those two, even though it's about the same sort of length of time. And that's because Comet 67P is approaching perihelion, it's approaching the Earth, so its apparent motion in the sky is getting faster. So it should brighten up a bit more. It's meant to get to about 8th magnitude in a few months' time. So this is a comet that I'm going to be watching quite avidly over the next few months, so I can see similar changes to the ones that I saw when I was observing it when Rosetta was exploring it all those years ago. So that's one to look out for those of you who can obtain fairly faint magnitudes. And talking of faint magnitudes, Comet Leonard, we hope it's going to give us a great showing later in the year. And this is the path of it throughout the year. I'm not going to talk about this because I've got a separate video that tells you all about that. But this is a map showing its motion over 10-day intervals. And just to give you the constellation, here's Bootes, the herdsman, Canis Benachity, Ursa Major with the plough here, and Dubhe and Merak, the bright pointer stars in the front of the plough. And here's it was 1st of January, February, March, April, May, June, July, and here's where the comet is on the 1st of August and the 31st of August. And it is starting to get brighter. It's still fairly faint at the moment, but yeah, and then down to November, and see my other video for more details of Comet Leonard. But here's where it is during this month. Again, this shows 1-day intervals. It's about 15th magnitude. Here's Dubhe and Merak. So this is the bowl of the plough here. So these are the feet of the Great Bear here, and you can see here's where it is on the 1st of August, 15th of August, and the 31st of August. You see the distance doesn't really change because it's not approaching perihelion or the Earth too much yet, but later in the year that motion should become much quicker and the comet should become much brighter. And here's the only image I've managed to get of it so far. This was on the 25th of May, and you can see the comet quite faint here, and perhaps you could just about see a slight little tail on that if you had good imagination. And then I'll just mention Comet C 2014 UN271. Lots and lots of publicity about it being a monster comet. Yes, it is. It is a big comet. And lots of people are saying it's going to be a fantastic sight in 2031. It's not, I'm afraid, because as you can see from this graphic here you can see the orbits of the planets, and you can see this is Saturn's orbit here. Uranus, Neptune, and this is Pluto. So when it comes in, it's going to come from the north and head down in this direction, then go below the plane of the solar system and then out away from the sun. So when it comes in 2031, the furthest it's going to be from the sun, or the nearest it's going to be from the sun, is going to be way beyond the orbit of Saturn. So it's not going to get close to the sun, it's not going to get close to the Earth, so you're going to need some, really, really faint reach with your equipment to be able to see anything at all. So, if you hear about this being an absolutely fantastic sight in 2031, take it with a pinch of salt, because it's not. So don't forget, if you find the Sky Diary useful, please like the video and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Take it easy, folks, and I'll see you all later.